What's up? We're back.
Yes,
It
we are.
is. What's up, DK?
What's up, man?
What's up? Never mind the spoiler behind JR and I. We'll get to that in a minute. But welcome to PS Comics I Love You, the live edition that y'all just love. And may I just get it out there right now if you're watching or you're checking in, and we'll talk about it throughout the show. Drop us a comment. You watch it on Facebook Live? Right below us, hit us a comment. You on YouTube? Bro, hit the comments section right below. If you're on Twitter, hit us a reply. And for one night only, well, in this particular case, hello Twitch TV, what's happening? You can watch on Twitch at True Voice of Reason 23 right now. And JR, I know you and I have talked about this. We're talking about doing some Twitch stuff with this show. We're going to do some gaming, and it'll be fun. So right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter at PS Comics I Love, the letter U on Twitter, by the way. And of course, you can find us on YouTube, not only at Voice of Reason 23, but guess what, bro?
What's up?
The show's got a YouTube channel. Search out PS Comics I Love You. We don't have a URL yet. We don't have a custom URL. You have to get to 100 subscribers to be able to do that. So with that said, challenge thrown out there. If you can get PS Comics I Love You's YouTube channel to 100 subscribers, I'm going to throw in something sweet for like subscriber 98 through 100. So like, I'll come up with something. It may come out of my collection. JR, I can tell you what it's not going to be. It's not going to be my ASM 129. That much.
I'm pretty sure we can do a podcast about that too. Actually,
this will be a teaser. JR has. I'm wiping the schmutz off JR's face on my screen because we got to have freaking the Dark King at also not JR Comics 42 on Instagram right there. Throw it down there. We got to make him look good on screen though. It doesn't reflect on your broadcast. I got to look at his pretty face. Man. So, throwing down the gauntlet, get us to 100 subscribers, search it out, PS Comics I Love You. We'll try and get the link. Stupid technology. I couldn't get the link that YouTube does give us to put on our Facebook page. So it'll be on our Instagram page and it'll be on our Twitter page. Go find that link or just search out PS Comics I Love You. And you'll see the little black logo. Also, real quick, little housekeeping. I am Kevin Pillow at Voice of Reason 23. That includes my Instagram account, and people have been sending me messages. Kevin, when are you going to bring comic books back to your Instagram account? We miss seeing your weekly updates from the asylum. First off, I went to the asylum for the first time last week in nearly 5 weeks. Between life and work and taking care of some personal stuff, and of course, COVID. I have not been to the asylum, and it was great to catch up with Nydia and with Chick to the point where I actually got a personal text from Chick thanking me for stopping by and loved catching up. With that said, I will start posting comic book stuff on my Instagram account again the day that CGC releases my comic book from jail, from purgatory or whatever. I am here to just for a second bitch about CGC having my Amazing Spider-Man number 129 for nearly 2 years. And that's just a teaser because JR has mentioned he's got 2 really good podcasts. Not that he hasn't done one before. He's done some great podcasts, but he's got 2 great podcasts he's writing. One of them, do you want to tease it now or do you want to tease at the end?
I'll tease it at the end, most likely.
Tease at the end. All right.
Yeah.
He's got a great one. He's been working on it, at least to my knowledge, for I'd say at least 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. And I think it's going to be one of our more entertaining and enlightening episodes. So I'll do that to tease it. We'll talk about it at the end of the broadcast. But this show, JR, is about one of the biggest movies, and this is not an exaggeration, one of the biggest movies of all time. Yes, I said it. I'm throwing it down there. I'm pulling up the numbers as we speak. But yes, one of the biggest movies of all time, Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yep.
Okay, it will be. Get this, bro. It will be 20 years. 20 years this year. Then from the since we saw Sam Raimi's masterpiece, we saw Tobey Maguire's debut as the Webhead. Spider-Man 1 came out in 2002. And at the time, for an opening weekend, set a record for ticket sales at $116 million plus. Okay. Now, JR, if someone did $116 million in the Marvel Cinematic Universe era, it's a flop. Even in the COVID era, that would be a flop. But 116 20 years ago was like, holy crap, no one's ever going to touch that. To put into perspective, guys, on average, a Marvel movie is doing at least 220. So it is double. That's, of course, inflation. And, of course, they've got the new super theaters with, reclining seats and extra large popcorns and stuff like that. But, just to put it in perspective, 116 was the opening weekend for Spider-Man 1 20 years ago this year. Did you see Spider-Man 1 in theaters?
Absolutely. It was I watched that. I think it came out 20 years ago, so that would be 2003. Yeah, I was still in high school, man. That was the first movie. That was one of the first. That was one of the first like full on like superhero movies that I went by myself to. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. Freaking Tobey Maguire is still very much my Spider-Man. Even with the new iterations coming out, and they are strong iterations to this point, man. Tobey Maguire is still my Spider-Man I grew up with, and so yeah, we like, of course, who didn't go watch Spider-Man 1, the first movie of the Raimiverse? Yeah, man. So like, it was good times. It was definitely good times. I think too, if you adjust it for inflation, it probably would have done like 300 to 400. And even for like, it's crazy to think that's a small number now still, but like when you include the fact that there aren't really big, like comic book movies back in the early 2000s weren't really that big anymore, other than maybe some like your Batman movies. I think they were going to release Superman Returns, Superman 2, I think.
Yeah, with Superman with
forget his name.
Oh my gosh, I just completely drew a blank on his name, but
yeah,
and he was pretty good.
He was good. Yeah,
that was probably, I think, like 2006.
Yeah, it was.
I remember I was working at Best Buy at the time. When Superman Returns. But you're right. Comic book movies were. I took the book back upstairs. Comic book movies were really not doing well. You had the Michael Keaton Batman in 1989. That did pretty good. I mean, that was, for its time, was huge. Batman Returns did okay. Batman Forever did okay. Batman and Robin tanked relatively. And that kind of turned some people off from comic book movies.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you had Spawn. That was of course, a Image comic franchise.
Yeah.
But the big one that saved Marvel, believe it or not, people want to say it was X-Men. And X-Men lit the fuse and launched the rocket. But the movie that saved Marvel when it came to theatrical release, because they'd had some bombs back in the 80s and stuff, was Blade.
That's true.
Blade was massive for them, and Wesley Snipes, it was one of the first rated R comic book movies to be made. I think, did Spawn come first or Blade?
I think they came out. I think Spawn came first.
Okay.
I think no. Never mind. I think Blade came first because it was relatively during that same time frame. I think, was it Michael J. White that played Spawn, or was it somebody else?
Oh, I can't remember, because it always was interesting. Was I assumed, like most, that Spawn, the guy behind the mask, was a white guy, and he's not. He's a black guy. Black. He's a cop, right? But
No, he was not a cop. He was a and Spawn did come out. Spawn came out in 1997. Blade came out in 1998. What happened during the story with that is I think he was a merc. He was a merc, and that's why he
oh
was sent
yeah,
to hell. Yeah, he was betrayed by one of his teams, and then he was burning alive, and he was sent to hell. And so,
that's what it is. Okay, I was thinking maybe it was a cop and he got burned by his partner, but no, you're right. He was a merc. He wasn't. I always thought maybe he was the mafia, but he fought the mob, kind
yeah,
of.
yeah, because it was actually pretty crazy for its time. It was Michael J. White, so I was fucking right.
Okay,
I was hoping that it would be something else. Let me see. Covert government assassin. Oh yeah, so he was technically a merc, but he was a government assassin, a spy basically, and then he was killed. He was double crossed, and he was just sent off to hell, because supposedly he took over hell, or he tried to take over hell. He was one of the hell spawns, and that he was desperately trying to save his wife, right? Because because the government he was with was going after his wife, as well as the I forgot his name, dude. I think it was it John Leguizamo's character?
the
The
big
clown,
fat guy.
yeah, the big clown. I'm not really too huge in like the Spawn verse as of right now, but like I did remember, getting somewhat into it, when it first came out, or at least the movies came out, and then like a little bit of the, of the comic books here and there. But I mean, it looked good. I
It
mean,
looked good for its time.
it was time. It gets a lot of shit because it's very zany in a comic book movie. But like if we look at it now with the hindsight of today's game, it was decent. I would say it's probably do better than Thor 2, but that's just my
Everyone's
opinion.
got to hate on the dark world.
You do fucking elves horribly, man. Hell yeah, I'm gonna freaking roast you.
I enjoyed it. What's
Bro.
funny is, and we'll
Yeah,
definitely. I know people have talked about when are you guys going to do the MCU podcast, and I said,
yeah,
I think that we'll get there, and we'll do maybe season 3. Like maybe we'll just do one season as just from beginning to end. We'll either do it in release order or we'll do it in chronological order. But I think
yeah,
maybe we'll have to do specialty shows where we go and do what do people see as the shittiest MCU movie? Oh, in my opinion, the worst MCU movie is Iron Man 3.
mm,
I enjoyed Dark World because I know how important the Dark World was to the Infinity Saga and setting up what the Infinity Stones were and what do they mean.
mm,
Moving going back along. So you have Spawn and Blade within 2 years
yeah,
of each other, really kind of reinvigorated comic book movies. But like I said before, the movie that lit the fuse and put comic book movies into the stratosphere was X-Men 1 in 2000. I can
yeah,
remember going to the Suncoast movie store in Oceanside, I'd say at least once a week, and they had it playing. They used to have full run movies. They'd pop it in the VHS or DVD player, and it would show on these screens at the entrance to the store.
yeah.
And I would sit there and watch the movie. I'd sit outside the store, and then I'd go in there and buy my WWF video or whatever. But I remember I never saw X-Men 1 in the theater. I did see Spider-Man, which of course was 2002. I did see that in the theater because it's Spider-Man. You had to go see it. And I was like, okay, how are they going to make him fly? How are they going to make him thwip? How are they going to, and
Yeah.
I was, absolutely loved it. I went and saw Spider-Man 2 in the theater. And that movie was like, I totally nerded out. I was on a date. I totally nerded out and I didn't get a second date. But it actually ended up leading to me meeting Danielle, who is my wife. But nonetheless, then of course you had Spider-Man 2, which was a massive hit. Then you had in between you had X-Men 2, and then you had right around when like 06, between like 06, 08, you had X3 and you had Spider-Man 3. And
Yeah.
that's when maybe
It started
the
tanking a little bit. Yeah, it got a little bit
yeah,
zany.
it was starting to get a little worn.
Yeah, X-Men 3 specifically because like Bryan Singer, who did the first two, he got off of 3 because he got asked to do
He did Superman.
Superman. Yeah, Superman Returns. And he did it with Brandon Routh. That's his name.
That's his name, Brandon Routh.
Yeah.
By the way, an underrated actor.
He's great, man. he did pull off that, like, he believed that he was from the Midwest. You did believe that, like, he was like, you know, it's been a minute since we had a tall Superman, right?
Yeah.
And I think Spider-Man Ralph's like 6'3", 6'4",
I
and
was always shocked at how big he was.
yeah, it
And
was good to see a tall, because like what Henry Cavill right now was, I think, 6'1".
is he
Uh,
only 6'1"?
yeah, it's weird. He's
I guess it just
huge.
looks weird because he's jacked.
Yeah, that's it. Like, what you put him next to Ben Affleck, who's pretty tall too. Don't, no disrespect, but like you have Brandon Routh. Like, a lot of these
Yeah.
superhero characters, right? They're supposed to be taller. Like, freaking my favorite Supergirl, Power Girl, is supposed to be like 5. Is supposed to be 5'11". My actual height, I think. No,
Yeah.
I'm 6'1". I'm 6'6", 6'1". And so, like a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter than me. But like, you're gonna have, they're probably gonna, if they cast her, they're gonna probably cast, like, someone who looks the part, sure, maybe. But like, there's gonna be like, 5'6", 5'5". And
Yeah.
so a lot of these actors and actresses, they should, like, it was good to see someone who was tall and play Superman. And it's not to crap on Hugh Jackman for playing Wolverine when he's also 6'1", but I just couldn't expect having Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Granted,
I
I
didn't
was
either, but
young at the
and that
time,
was
so
another one that kind of got hooked me on
yeah,
um on sitting there and watching that movie as many times as I did at Suncoast
yeah,
was the um I, the look of him from like here up was
yeah,
he was jacked. He got swole for that movie,
yeah,
and people don't realize Wolverine he's jacked. He's just freaking mountain man, whatever. But
yeah.
for those who don't know, in the comic books, Logan Wolverine is represented to be like what 5'2",
Five
something
three,
like that.
five
He's
four,
kind of tiny.
and he weighs a ton because of
But
all
yeah,
that
but
metal inside him. Yeah.
yeah,
So it was, yeah, those movies were great to have, to like kind of build off of. And of course, we go through the chronological order of like what happened after that, right? Oh, Spider-Man 3, all the threes, right, from that era was a letdown, to say the least.
yeah. Spider-Man 3 was in '07.
Yeah.
I think X3, which was X-Men United.
Yeah.
Um,
They tried to do something different, which was
yeah,
okay. I understood, but like, it was just too short of a movie for me. That
yeah.
was my biggest reasons.
So you have Spider-Man 3 that comes out in 2007. We know the story that Sam Raimi wanted to go a different direction, and the studio wanted Venom. The fans kind of wanted Venom, and I think in the long run, the fans would have preferred to wait because Raimi said Venom is coming, and I think his original plan was to do 6 movies.
Yep.
So Raimi says, "Fine, I'll do it, but I'm done." Tobey Maguire, who was suffering from back issues, obviously he had a huge hit with Seabiscuit, got jacked up in
Mhm.
that, and then really got screwed up in Spider-Man 2, and then of course the joke is he hurts his back in
My
Spider-Man 3.
bag. Yeah.
So Spider-Man 3 ends up being the final movie for Raimi, and it also you have your lead Toby back out, and then you have Kirsten Dunst also said, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
done with this. So what do? You reboot. But here is the deal. Spider-Man is owned by Sony Pictures. Okay. Marvel, what is Marvel? Okay, so you have Spider-Man 3, 2007. What does Marvel do in 2008? Well, while Spider-Man 3 is out in the theater bombing, Marvel is putting together a new division of Marvel Entertainment, and that is Marvel Studios. And Marvel Studios has announced that they are financed by, I think I can't remember who it was, but they're putting together their own movies. They're gonna take the homegrown talent they have left, and they're gonna make their own movie. So in the midst of
Mm.
Spider-Man 3 bombing at the box, and actually it still did pretty good. I'll get the numbers here in just a second, but for all intents and purposes, it kind of bombed. We're in production of Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, and the MCU is less than a year away from being born.
Mm.
So, Spider-Man 3 tanks. Sony doesn't know what to do with it. Well, Sony has 3 years to put a new Spider-Man movie in production, or the rights revert back to Marvel immediately. There's no buyout. They go right back to Marvel, and we
Yeah.
would have had Spider-Man from almost day one.
Yeah.
So what does Sony do? Literally, I think it was legit on the last day they turn in a script, beat the deadline, and put the movie in pre-production, and that is Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man comes out in 2012. Does actually pretty good. I didn't like the original trailer for it. I didn't like. I'm like, oh god, we're getting another emo Spider-Man. Completely opposite. It was more of a witty, smart ass,
Yeah.
kind of nerdy. That comes out in 2012. Then we get Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was a lot, but we get but still a
Yeah.
relatively decent movie. Really and truly think about this. You take Harry Osborn out, it's not a half bad movie.
Yeah.
That comes
It's
out in 2014, so 2 years
yeah.
later.
I will say though, just going back, Spider-Man 3 did fucking gangbusters for its time.
Yes.
900 million.
I'm going to look at the breakdown. This is according to the numbers.com. These
Yeah.
all 7 Spider-Man movies are in the top 100
Yeah.
of all time.
It's like the last one did 900 million. The second one, which is my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, is 789. So it's very much, it should have been more off of replayability, but then I think that the reason why it did tank in certain regards because like it for its time, it was a meme. Right?
You talking about Spider-Man 3?
Spider-Man 3 because like it was trying to be serious, right? After the second film, right, which had a lot of serious notions to it. It felt like to me when like a long-standing show, right, on television is about to be canceled or like they know it's his final season, they just go crazy and zany, right?
Yeah.
Like
Great.
what's called Boy Meets World final season. In the last 4 episodes, right? They have like a who killed who episode, a musical episode, like all this crazy zany stuff. They're like, screw it, man. Like let's just do whatever, right? It kind of felt like that, even though it did have some level of like, oh no, this is about Venom. This is supposed to be more jazz influence. It's supposed to be more on the serious notion, and like it was back in 2004. 2007 actually, and it's like more emo, right? Because that was the genre at the time. They're trying to appease these new kids, but then it wasn't really that. It was a meme before memes type of thing.
Yeah.
Like the whole Peter dancing in the street, right? Just dancing in front of a boutique store, just doing the rolling, like in front of people, like, oh come on, bro.
And they even poke fun of each other of themselves into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Which some people go like, okay, where do the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse belong in the multiverse?
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of teased that the Spider-Man that, spoiler alert, that dies in Into the Spider-Verse,
is Tobey's.
That is Tobey Maguire. But I think it's a completely different Spider-Man. Of course, that's voiced by Chris Pine. A lot of people were kind of hoping that we were going to get live action versions of the animated Spider-Man in No Way Home. Real quick, I do want to throw these out there as we get to this. Will lead us to No Way Home. Going down the list, like I said, all 7 Spider-Man movies are not only in the top 100, but they're in the top 70. Number 65 all-time 2017's Spider-Man Homecoming made $330 million domestically, with a whopping $878 million worldwide. Spider-Man 3 from 2007 came in at number 61, did $336 million domestically, $894 over worldwide. Spider-Man 2, JR says probably, I mean, even No Way Home taken into consideration, Spider-Man 2 is probably the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time.
Yeah.
Brought in 373 domestically, 794 worldwide. So these are all domestic numbers, by the way. There's our rankings. Far From Home came in at number 41, breaking in 390 million, but did $1.1 billion worldwide. The first Spider-Man movie to do that. Spider-Man 1, of course, at the time had the all-time record for opening weekend, did only $403 million. And I say only, but again, like JR mentioned, take into consideration inflation. This is literally 20 years ago, and the opening weekend was 116. That is 25% of its overall gross was
Yeah.
its opening weekend. Spider-Man does $821 million 20 years ago worldwide. Then
Yeah.
we scroll all the way up to number 6 for now,
Yeah.
domestic gross $673 million and worldwide $1.5 billion. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. JR, had this movie come out in a
Hmm.
non-pandemic situation, does Spider-Man, at least domestically, have Star Wars Force Awakens overtaken? And I say that because Force Awakens is the number one domestic movie of all time.
It'd be close. It'd be
Okay.
really, really close because just for the simple fact that I have to think that even though it's like it's one of those quandaries like like could it or couldn't it, right? Like I feel like Spider-Man was the perfect movie for people to get back into the movie theaters, right?
It
To
was a
go back,
motivator. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. But like I feel like also like if Spider-Man, if it wasn't for COVID era times, right, with everything kind of rolling in, and the fan anticipation of wanting to like to go out and see a movie or see these Marvel heroes, right, on the big screen, I think it wouldn't do as well either, which is crazy to think, right? But like it's the same notion. Like I was super hyped after watching Hawkeye to see what happens, because like what happens in New York, and what happens
Yeah.
in New York is in Spider-Man, like things that lead into it. Granted, I'm pretty sure it would just do great by itself. Had taking number one spot from Star Wars, that'd be a little bit tougher to think though, right? Because uh because I believe that I would believe that if we weren't fucking spoiled from all the stupid ass spoilers that were going out,
Yeah.
the replayability would be greatly in, and people would go watch. Granted, people are going to watch it regardless, but I do feel that the spoilers coming in, expectations of the fans of like what they could expect from all the fan theories and all that stuff out really did play a part of like ultimately not going to like not having Spider-Man be like number one all year or all time, right? Because like the same thing, the Star Wars one, I gotta say, man, we barely kind of knew anything about Star Wars one or about Force Awakens. There was some
No,
stuff,
they kept that thing
yeah,
close.
they were really fucking good. I gotta give Lucasfilms like at least props for that, right? Or like they just had to shut up. Like, no, we just got to do some little bit of stuff, get fan hype, and then people just go out and do it themselves. And that was one of the great caveats of that. Like, if you want to really lock down your movie and get some and garner some full on attention, yeah, this is how you do it properly. And I would feel, man, that like, hey, man, Marvel fans are the craziest fans I have seen. Like one of the craziest fans, and over their overall enthusiasm and wanting to see these movies and want to see these characters, come to life and be on the big screen. But like, sometimes, man, you just gotta like not look at that tweet. You gotta learn how to just shut up about certain things if you do know, and not just put it out to the world to be the first click, blah blah blah, right? And I feel like it's because of that. It's like one of those things where like for me, I will say I was spoiled. Right. And
Yeah,
before
that
going
kind of
into the
bummed me out that
movie,
you got spoiled.
I got spoiled and I intended to watch the movie multiple times. And but like it's just it wasn't there for me anymore because like okay, it's good to see certain people, it's good to see certain characters, it's good to see all these things happen at once again and hearing it instead of and watching it for some rather than hearing it. Like I have no incentive really to go out back into a movie theater with other people that might inhibit my experience of watching the movie again. So it was one of those things. I do feel that plays a part of like just spoiler. We live now in a huge spoiler world where it's easy to look at spoilers. So I feel that
Absolutely.
that's one of the things.
The
Yeah,
big spoiler from this movie is,
I
of
mean,
course, right
obviously,
behind us on the screen, and that
yeah,
is the
yeah.
three Spider-Men. And literally, I know that there were set photos and costume leaks and at least it wasn't freaking toy manufacturers for the first time. It wasn't Funko for the first time ever that
Mm-hmm.
spoiled it. It was somehow, some way, some dirt sheet managed to get set photos and stuff like that. But put it into what JR just said into perspective. 6th highest grossing movie of all time. Okay. By the way, of the top 10, okay, here's the top 10 highest grossing domestic movies of all time. Number 10, Last Jedi. Number 9, The Avengers. Number 8, Jurassic World. Number 7, Titanic. Yes, Titanic from 1997.
Yep.
Spider-Man No Way Home is at number 6. Infinity War is number 5. Black Panther is at 4. Avatar is at number 3.
Yep.
Avengers Endgame is 2. And number 1 is Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Yep.
5 movies are Marvel. Okay.
Yeah.
And just to roll it all together, 7 total movies
Disney
are owned by technically I stand corrected, technically 8 total movies in the top 10 are now Disney properties. I forgot, technically Avatar was 20th Century Fox at the time, but Fox is now owned by Disney. So Scoreboard, Mouse House. No, that's not what I wanted to click. To put it into perspective, what JR just said is, yeah, this was spoiled. The other big character reveal was spoiled. We'll get to that in just a second. But again, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen Force Awakens ever, I want to give you 3 seconds to turn off the volume. 3, 2, 1. I read a bunch of stuff about Force Awakens. I didn't go looking for spoilers, but I wanted to get some information about the movie. I was at Comic-Con just a few months prior to the movie being released. I was amongst the nerds of nerds in San Diego. No one had the spoiler that Han was going to die. Did not see that coming at all until seconds before it happened in the theater. By the way, one of the few moments in the movie where I nearly cried. The other one was when Han and Chewie walk onto the Millennium Falcon. It goes, Chewie, we're home. I was just like, yes, I did make that sound.
Yeah, there was a visible gasp when you saw the death scene, because no one fucking expect that. Like, there was some inclinations for that, sure, but like, you didn't think with that level of stardom, with the type of like franchise that Star Wars is, that you would fucking kill Han Solo. Yet they were crazy enough to kill Han Solo. And so, like, I thought at that point, right? Granted, like, the movie at that point for me was decent, right?
Yeah.
Them killing off Han was like, all right, cool. They want to try something different. They want to try something crazy. We'll see how that goes, type of thing. Granted, like, I was still hoping for, Star Wars Legacy Edition to come out, like, to say that, oh, actually, raise my daughter. You're my son. You're actually twins. But then that never happened. So
we were all going like this, please, JJ, please. Anyways, by the way, killing major characters. We'll get to that in just a few moments. But as we kind of reach the halfway point here of this podcast, at least we hope it's going to be the halfway point. We're trying to keep these live shows kind of tight. And let's get right into the meat and potatoes. We've told the story of how we've gotten to No Way Home, at least from a business standpoint. Where have we gotten there from a story standpoint? We leave off after Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man is without a father figure, a tutor, a mentor. We saw what happened in Far From Home. He kind of falls into the lap of Happy Hogan as kind of the crazy uncle, but he kind of he has some trust issues because he wants to trust, and he trusted Mysterio. We saw how that happened. The end credit scene, we find out that Mysterio published a video. By the way, did he really die? I'm sure maybe we'll find out in the future, but he's able to upload a video and send it off to the Daily Bugle. Of course, it's doctored to make it look like Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, murdered Mysterio in London at the end of Far From Home. Of course, J. Jonah Jameson labels them that. That's how the movie ends. We now pick up 2 years later, right where that movie left off. We're in No Way Home, and people are Peter, blah, 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 and they're coming after him, thinking he's a murderer. Mysterio was right. He tries to go back to high school.
Yeah.
which was a great scene, by the way. When he goes back to school, you have the principal, the PE teacher, and his I think one of his teachers,
Yeah.
and they're like, "We're for you," and then one of the other teachers was like, "Yeah,
No.
you were justified," and then the PE teacher's like, "Dude, you're a murderer. What the hell?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of great banter.
Oh, yeah. It was a good, like, for me, the whole scene where like he's walking down like the aisle, right, the school aisle, and like every kid got their phone out, right. It was a great for me. I'm like, okay, cool. uh Granted, I do gotta preface this, right? Because I was fucking spoiled in the movie, right? I knew all the
Yeah,
beats. I knew what was gonna happen. So I wasn't looking from a fan's perspective. I was looking from like, all right, cool. Let's see where the story goes. I wanna see, like, I'm looking for an analytical
yeah,
perspective, right? Which fucking sucks on one thing, because like I can enjoy the movie, sure, but like I wouldn't enjoy it like in the same, like, if I would have, going in fresh. But like looking at that scene, right? It was a very like distinctive portrayal of like today's fucking age. Rather than talking to the person, everyone got their fucking phone out in their face. The particularly the was it the girl, right? Like when Peter comes down, they show like his face on the screen, like, oh, Spider-Man, right? Like, oh, and the girl, right, like trying to grab him, take your
yeah.
mask off, right? And like he doesn't really like hit her, but like he moves away and she goes like, oh yeah, see, Spider-Man hit me. Peter Parker hit me. Like, oh, that's so fucking indicative of like,
That whole bingo, that whole scene, and the scene outside the high school
yeah, it
is
was like,
so.
it,
I'm hoping I was use. I think that's the right word. It's indicative of what today is.
yeah, it's
Not only is it the like, oh, we got to get this on
yeah, yeah,
on
you lose,
YouTube. We got to get this on
yeah,
Twitter. We got to get this on World Star. We
yeah,
got to get this on
you lose sight.
Snapchat.
You definitely lose sight of the person behind the mask, or the person you're taking photos at, right? Because you want that clickbait bullshit, and it's
Yeah,
like, when do you stop? When is enough enough? Like, are you going to? Were you guys continue to hate freaking Tony Stark for for giving up his life to everybody? I'm pretty fucking sure, if Tony survived or he didn't survive, right, and people came back, there are probably people are gonna say, "How come you didn't do this sooner?" Type of shit, right? I'm pretty sure. And so it's
yeah,
like it's that level of like it's that level of of ungratefulness, where like it really does show in the first part. Seems like you had this fucking kid who was still going through high school trying to save your asses, and have saved your asses consistently over the last couple years, right? Granted, pre blip and post blip,
yeah.
right? And then now you're like, oh, because of one fucking guy, Mysterio, saying he's a killer or something, right? Now you're it's so it was awesome. It was cool to see that, like, how people can be so easily swayed, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And granted, we lived in a country where quite literally the last 4 years of a certain presidency, it shows you how people could be easily swayed,
Yeah.
and so it's crazy,
It's a
crazy
it's a
people.
far cry from, like, I remember, like, I don't know, I can't remember what movie it was, but it's like we're a far cry from old movies where like someone would do something and be falsely accused of something, and they go like in this case, like you had the little girl that go like, Spider-Man, why did you do that? But I didn't do it. Okay, I believe you. Now, like you said, it's like you have this woman who's Spider. Oh, you saw that he broke my arm. He pushed me. But it's like we don't go, like, we don't ask why. We just
Yeah,
we
we assume.
just like in real life,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say it, just like in real life, in the
Mhm.
Marvel Cinematic Universe, we are no longer innocent until proven guilty. We are now guilty until proven less guilty.
Yeah. It.
Because you can ask
Yeah.
someone, I could sit here right now and say something out of context towards JR, and people will edit the video and say that, oh, look at what Kevin said, and I can show you the
Yeah.
master video, and they'll go like, well, he's just less of a asshole now. So that's
It's
the kind of world we live in.
Yeah,
But
we live in a world where people call people snowflakes. Snowflakes call other people snowflakes, and it's like, though that's a weird fucking term to begin with anyway, and I hate that it's like that term is here today. But like, it does feel like it does feel like I don't know, man. Like people who continually grasp at the chance to, right, to be, I guess, famous, or right, to try to prove something, right,
yeah,
is so more rampant nowadays. And so I love that they added that little tidbit in where like He's just a fucking kid. He's a
Yeah.
6-year-old kid. And in comparison to like when Toby did his scene, when Toby did his Spider-Man scene, right, where he took off his mask and he stopped the fucking train, right, from colliding off the thing, and they saw him. He said, "Oh shit, he's a kid. No photos,
That was
nothing."
I love that
Yeah,
scene. It's one of the many reasons why I love Spider-Man 2.
yeah. I forgot if they actually did a scene like that specifically with Andrews where he had his mask off. I don't recall, but I do
Once
know.
he took the mask off when in Amazing Spider-Man #1 when
Mm,
there was a SUV dangling off the I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge,
that's right. That's right.
and the kid's scared, so he takes the mask off, and the kid looks at him. He goes, and almost this little kid
Yeah,
like 6 years old goes, "You're just a kid," and he goes, "Here, put my mask on." That I think that was the
yeah,
only time that Andrew revealed himself
yeah.
to someone. So
Yeah, it took her out. I think that, but like those scenes, particularly, like it's crazy how like in stark comparison they do that scene for Tom's Spider-Man, and he's vilified for it, which is crazy to think, right?
yeah.
Or like how so easily swayable people are. But continue on the story, we have that uh the just small tidbits basically. They can't get into college because of Peter being Peter, or because of
Yeah,
Peter being
basically
Spider-Man.
Peter being Peter. That's the best way to put
Yeah.
it.
And so they can't get into college. He tries his best. They tried their best to live normal life. Uh, I will say it was definitely. I did feel very much like of it being a rom com, which is great because I do know sidebar that that one of the movies I forgot the director's name for the movie. He's doing Fantastic Four. This is from
John
some of
Watts is the
John Watts.
Spider-Man who did the Spider-Man
Yeah,
Homecoming trilogy.
yeah, he actually for this particular movie, Homecoming 3, he told Tom and a bunch of the cast members like, hey, watch all of like I forgot his name, dude, the famous director
Oh
who
no,
did
they
like
did a whole they during production. No, I know this story.
yeah,
During production, John Hughes.
John Hughes. They just
They did a
basically told him like
whole marathon.
yeah, so it was like Zendaya, Tom, and like yeah, we're doing a whole production. We're doing a whole marathon of like watching those movies, and like it did play out pretty well
Yeah,
in the scenes of either Ned and Tom, or Ned and Peter with Zendaya or with MJ around. So
yeah.
that was freaking cool to see. You see a little bit of those scenes go like play throughout. Flash being there a little bit, and so I will say, uh, you were right in when Doctor Strange came to be. You were kind of right. I will give you that. He did definitely play your your devil in disguise a little bit.
A little bit.
A
I
little bit.
honestly was very surprised in the long run
Mm,
that Doctor Strange ended up being um straight man. I mean, he was straight Doctor Strange. There was
yeah.
no. But again, I think we've been so like it's gonna be what's the
Yeah,
devil?
spoiler bolt. Yeah,
Um,
I just had his name too, man.
uh, I can't think of it. Anyways, we're missing a huge part before we get to Doctor Strange and talk
Yeah,
about that part. I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Mephisto.
Obviously, we got the
Mephisto.
answer to quote unquote forearm gate, which was in the original trilogy. There was a guy who threw down a stack of papers while interrogating Peter Parker in what we thought at the time was a police precinct, but we find out later it is the Department of Damage Control. So the Damage Control, a bigger part of Spider-Man No Way Home, which I love, and it kind of makes me mad that they never did do the TV show that they were going to do, which was going to
That's
be
right.
a single camera comedy about a day in the life of Damage Control, which was a kind of a little offshoot comic book. But we see Peter, May, Ned, and MJ all
Interrogated.
being interrogated by Damage Control. Real quick, what did you think of the real quick Easter egg thrown out there that MJ, which is Michelle Jones Watson
Yeah.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Of course, she immediately says, "That's just Michelle Jones."
Yeah.
So it's not Mary Jane.
Yeah.
So for those of you who want to continue the MJ hate, though, yes, technically her legal last name is Watson. In this, she is MJ Watson. She is not Mary Jane Watson. So y'all can stop. And by the way, there is a character in the comic books that
Yeah.
fits her description, physical description, named Michelle. Okay, so just kind of get over it. So,
Like, no, it's just
what do you
fucking
think? What do you
stupid,
think
man.
of that Easter egg?
I'm like, fucking finally. So people just stop fucking bitching.
Yeah,
Honestly. This is
I was
like,
kind of the same way.
like, I understand, like, people when they think of their childhood characters and heroes, right? They expect them to look a certain way, right?
Yeah,
MJ, red hair, white girl,
yeah,
right? MJ Watson, because she's supposed to be she's supposed to be a certain amalgamation, not amalgamation. She was supposed to be the interpretation of Stan Lee's wife, right? So cool, understandable. Here's the thing: variants are a thing now. So sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up.
yeah. And I
That's
talked
basically it.
for a half a second when when they say Watson, I was like, I went,
Right.
Okay, finally, whatever. I was over.
Yeah.
I got over it immediately. I was like, the air has been cleared. There's no
Yeah.
more, what is it? Blah blah blah. But no, they cleared the air. So of course you
Hmm.
get these guys interrogated. They're under scrutiny. And Peter needs a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
We all saw it coming. We all saw it coming at the end of Far From Home when the second that J. Jonah Jameson played that video on the Daily Bugle, we
Yeah.
knew it. Hey, Peter's gonna need a lawyer. He's gonna need a lawyer. And hold on, what lawyer is in right now in the Marvel universe in 2017 or 2019? Charlie Cox is Daredevil. Hell yeah! And of
Yeah.
course, when She-Hulk was announced, everyone's like, "Oh, we're just gonna
Yeah.
get Jennifer Walters." Okay,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of cool.
Hmm.
When they went to that kitchen scene, and Peter
Yeah.
May and Happy are sitting
Yeah.
at the table, and the camera turns, and there's the glasses, and there's the walking stick, and there is Matthew freaking Murdock.
Yeah.
Literally got a bigger reaction out of me than the triplets. Okay, I was stoked, loved it. You had to have been just as giddy as I was.
Oh yeah. I was, again, another scene I was spoiled in, but granted, like,
Yeah,
it was one of those film, like, we knew it was coming. Like, we talked about it for months now. Anyway, like, this is if a movie, if a scene, or if a series or a movie will come out to really really to bring in Daredevil, it would be this movie or Hawkeye. So like, yeah, it was gonna be one or the other. So granted, I saw that, like, all right, cool, he looks good. That's it. He looks good. Looks great.
he looked great.
They didn't change anything about him. They did not change absolutely anything about him, which that's what I freaking hope for. And he looks good. That's it. That's like he looks like, hopefully, that he's not. How old is Charlie Cox now? Actually, now how old is Matthew?
Well, Charlie Cox is the actor. Matthew Murdock is the character. I know
How
we
old
got
how old
so
is Charlie
many
Cox?
names going,
I know.
bro.
How old is Charlie Cox right now?
Are you gonna look it up?
Yeah, he
Okay.
is. He's about to be 40. So there's a possibility that he might play Daredevil now for maybe another 5-6 years, possibly.
Absolutely. And for those who
Right?
don't know, he's supposedly going to be making a more what did someone call it, a more beefed up cameo role in She-Hulk, which we are expecting to be the next Marvel Disney Plus show to be released. Of course, which, by the way, real quick teaser, Book of Boba Fett, we will have a breakdown of episodes 1, 2, and 3 probably sometime this weekend live.
Yep.
There is 9 episodes for Book of Boba Fett, I believe, according to IMDb, which means that obviously in the next 6 weeks we will get sometime in the next 6 weeks we'll get an announcement of what is coming next. If it's going to be She-Hulk, is it going to be Moon Knight? But we do know that She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel are for sure coming out this year. But we know that Miss Marvel will not be until the summer. So that don't get your hopes up.
It's fine.
But we do know that Charlie Cox is coming back for She-Hulk in, like I said, in a upgraded cameo role. It's not an official, but he's going to be in there. We also have heard rumors, but it's going to happen, is that it's got to happen, that Charlie Cox will be returning to play Matt Murdock and Daredevil in the Echo Disney Plus show, which
Mhm.
also rumored to be returning in that one, is Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Now, if you did not see our breakdown of the final 2 episodes of Hawkeye, let me refresh your memory real quick. According to Vincent D'Onofrio, who has quoted Kevin Feige, the godfather of Marvel,
Mhm.
Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in Hawkeye is the same Kingpin from Daredevil seasons 1, 2, and 3. It is the same.
Good.
They are the same guy,
Good.
which now has connected the Netflix series universe to the MCU mainline, which means that Charlie Cox is the same Daredevil as we saw in the Netflix. So, by the way, that was kind of cool. It's like there's the brick, he catches it, and Peter's like,
Oh,
"How'd you do that?" He goes, "I'm a good lawyer."
yeah. It was
It
I
was
mean,
campy, but it was good.
no, it was good. Like that was that's at this point of the film too, it started to really ramp things up a little bit more.
Yep.
So like you saw that thing go on. There was a lot more. There was a lot more heart in the movie than I thought that there would
Yeah.
be. Right. There was a lot more heart, and yeah, it was good to have. It was good to have Charlie back. It was good. I can't wait to see him in Echo and in any other future iterations. Granted, like I'm hoping his body still keeps up with with all the crazy freaking crap that Marvel puts their actors through. Granted,
Especially a character like Daredevil. I mean, you
God,
don't have. I mean, he has a suit, but he's a street level character. It's not like he's got laser eyes and in an Iron Man suit or he's Hulk.
yeah, he's technically without the webbing Spiderman at this point, without the super strength
Yeah,
too. So like he's supposed to be street level type of badass. But here's hoping that that they kind of help him out a little bit better for Charlie. Hopefully Charlie
for
doesn't do
Vincent
those.
D'Onofrio.
Oh god, hopefully Charlie doesn't do those freaking long fucking scenes where it's like either like a one clip or two clip of him going down a hallway just beating dudes up.
Oh, come on! I want to see a hallway scene on the big screen.
It's gonna happen, but then I hope it's not with Charlie. That's the thing.
No,
I'll just say with that, it's gonna happen, but I just hope not with Charlie.
and I do like that they've kind of. Would you say that was inspired by the Matrix?
No.
Okay, so you're thinking the quote unquote hallway scene, which has been redone. I mean, they did it in I think they did it in it's going to be in the Batman. It's going to be in Robert Pattinson's The Batman. They did one, and I think they did it in the Mandalorian as well. But so it's kind of been adopted. But someone was telling me that in Matrix 1 they did a quote hallway scene.
The
but
hallway
that's different.
scene.
That was more Inception.
Scene, yeah, the hallway scene they did was basically the last final scene in Matrix. No, the hallway scene that's been widely popularized is actually from a Korean film called Old Boy. I always
that's right.
Yeah, and that's the film, right? Just don't get me started right now on fucking I just heard some fucking news that Michael motherfucking Bay is gonna be remaking one of my favorite fucking karate films or action films. So I don't want to talk about that shit right now. But like going on to the hallway scene stuff, no, it was Old Boy. It was Korean Asian oriented that was adopted into Western audiences and Western filmmakers. Be like, that shit looks fucking cool. It does. One panel, one shot, you fighting through a hallway. That looks freaking cool. So it's just a lot of like heavy work for the actor to do because like I don't want Charlie doing that. He's gonna be like he's gonna be 40 in September, right? And that's maybe he shot some scenes already, maybe not, right? But like, I don't want I want Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock to be on for a while, right? Granted, he's gonna do a lot of heavy lifting too, but like, yeah, I don't want him doing another long ass takes of him either flying down a hallway or down a fucking flight of stairs, man. No, I'm good.
No, and I think what's going to be kind of nice with the introduction of Jennifer Walters is you now have opened up the world that Matt can be Matt. He doesn't have to be Daredevil all the time. He did such a fantastic job, and I think now you can have the character. He can play Daredevil every once in a while, but I think you can almost have the fans be happy with Charlie Cox, who plays a great Matt Murdock and a great Daredevil. Remember, when you play a superhero, you're literally playing two separate characters. I mean, I know it's Tony Stark just in an Iron Man suit, but you have to act different as Iron Man and then act as Tony Stark. I mean, it was the same thing with Batman. the
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, and I would say the top two that played both characters well was Ben Affleck. Kill me, I don't care. Ben Affleck played Bruce Wayne and Batman well. Michael Keaton, I think, was a better Batman than a Bruce Wayne. Christian Bale, I think, he played Batman well. I know he the stuffed up Batman, that growly voice that people will pick on all the time. But he actually played Bruce Wayne well. You remember, you have to play two different characters. Charlie Cox played Matt Murdock well, and of course, he kicked ass as Daredevil.
Yeah.
Between fast forward, Peter goes to Doctor Strange. They do the spell. It gets fucked up. Multiverse is opened. We end up on a bridge. Peter is trying to find the Chancellor of MIT. To try to get his. By the way, wink. That is a massive, massive Marvel teaser right there. Easter egg.
Absolutely.
MIT is a massive school to the Marvel universe. And by the way, MIT
shooting scenes MIT right now.
They're shooting scenes at MIT right now with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So we're on the bridge. He's trying to find the Chancellor. All of a sudden, his Peter Tingle kicks in, aka the Spider Sense, and JR, it took us back to 2003 or 2004, whatever it was, 2005.
Yeah.
And the claw comes down, and here comes the great Alfred Molina as Dr. Otto Octavius.
Yeah.
In probably one of the best fight scenes in the Marvel universe, outside of Shang-Chi and the scaffolding scene. That's still probably my number one. But damn, the trailer does not do it justice. That scene was epic.
It was good. It was really freaking good, man. It was like just having him back, man, is so satisfying to me. He was definitely top tier, like one of the best villains in any franchise for me.
Oh yeah.
He was given one fucking movie, dude, and so like I'm happy to see him back. I'm happy to see that. Just kind of fast forward everything, right? Like I know we're trying to still work on time here, but like just trying to see, let the cat out of the bag. We get all the villains back, right?
Yeah.
We get Green Goblin. That's near the end of that scene. We get who's played fucking amazingly too.
Oh, Willem Dafoe deserves some kind of award. I know he's probably going to get the MTV Movie Award, but
William Dafoe coming back and playing both Norman
Osborn and
the Green Goblin separately too. That like level, like, okay, cool.
It was definitely separate.
And it's definitely like schizophrenia in that sense. So that's freaking awesome. It's awesome that he plays that role. We see Jamie Foxx back, right, as Electro. We see I forgot his name. Sandman.
I will look that up. Oh,
great
I'm
sorry.
Too.
Yeah, he was in Sideways. He was in a bunch of other. He was in a TV show as well. He was great.
Thomas
great
Hayden Church.
Actor.
Thomas Hayden Church is Sandman, and then I apologize that I never can get Lizard's name right. By the way, I don't want to Reese Ifans, I believe, is how you pronounce it. Real quick, I don't want to feel like we're glossing over Flint Marko / Sandman and Dr. Kirk Connors and the Lizard. But in this movie, neither Reese Ifans nor Thomas Hayden Church ever stepped foot on set. All of their scenes and their mannerisms were pulled from their respective movie. In this case, Sandman from Spider-Man 3 and the Lizard pulled from Amazing Spider-Man #1. Now, they all did do new audio and submitted them remotely or went to recording sessions. But yes, neither Thomas Hayden Church or Reese were on set. Now, of course, we do know that Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, and Jamie Foxx were all on set. Yeah. And,
they were great.
I have a love-hate relationship with Jamie Foxx. He was really good. I think he redeemed himself and redeemed the character in this movie.
I mean, I couldn't call it his fault for the original interpretation of the character anyway. It
That
wasn't.
was
It
poor
definitely wasn't.
direction, poor writing.
It was yeah. I just this whole fucking horrid interpretation of like the nerdy, geeky looking individual being a badass later on because of some transformation. That
Yeah.
trope gotta fucking stop. I hate that fucking trope to begin with. Like, there's certain parts where that trope could be used well, sure, but from the movies that we've seen it, Wonder Woman 84, this one, well, other movies were there like in the last couple of years too. I forgot, but I've seen so many of them of the geek nerdy type being a badass afterwards because of some horrible traumatic experience. Right?
Yeah.
It's an overdone horrible trope that hasn't been done correctly. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back into the scenes, man. Like, yeah, dude, like it was such a great touch of like just wanting to have or wanting this interpretation of just wanting all these characters back and trying to forgive the sin or trying to redeem them or like or try to like do the whole like forgiveness of sins of previous Spider-Man. Like I love that not hating Christian. I love that Sandman, right? His Sandman
Thomas Hayden
was
Church.
Thomas Hayden Church Sandman was the same Sandman like at the end of Spider-Man 3 rather than in the middle of Spider-Man 3 where he was obviously fighting him. Like they were on obviously good terms, right? Like Peter's at you, and so like he's helping him fight against Electro. Electro obviously is before the end game fight or near the end game fight of Spider-Man of Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then we have we have of course freaking Doc Ock, Alfred Molina, like near the end of Spider-Man 2. It's like
It
these
is.
crazy interpretations, which I fucking love.
I do like this. Is really and truly Doc Ock. His character was pulled. It sounded like literally as he was falling into the East River with his.
Mm-mm,
Was
mm-mm.
it before? Yeah, it's because he
Yeah,
doesn't know. That's right, because he doesn't know about what happened to his machine.
yeah. Because like with the second he falls into it, he has that glimpse of like he comes back to his senses in order to do that redeeming factor. These are a lot of these characters, they do it before the redemption arc
That's
of
right.
the
He
actual
had
event.
the inhibitor still in him,
Yeah,
um, in No Way Home.
yeah,
And at the end of Spider-Man 2,
yeah,
he regains consciousness of the arms as he's
yeah,
falling into the water. That's right, because the arms go from red to white
yeah,
in Spider-Man 2.
yeah.
So we do for a brief moment, as Spider-Man, meaning Tom Holland Spider-Man, um, manages to wrangle up the Sinister Five, so to speak. He
Mhm,
gets Doc Ock on the bridge. He does get. He manages to get Harry Osborn, or no, I'm sorry, Norman Osborn, later, after finding him at the food place with Aunt May.
mhm.
Of course, he ditches the mask. He has another moment with the mask where he's talking to himself, which was great. And then, of course, he shatters the mask and kind of goes
Yeah.
old school Green Goblin a little bit with the
I'm
hood and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was definitely a parody, a definite scene of like what they did in Spider-Man 2 with Toby, where he threw away his mask on, and like nearly exact shot for shot, the
Yeah,
same scene. So
but
that was good
we
to
so
see.
we see Spider, who's got some Sorcerer Supreme hookup on his spider suit. He's
Mm,
basically like teleporting these um, evil villains. Like he does get Sandman. He's able to get Electro, which by the way, they do pay homage
yeah,
to his blueness, and then
yeah,
it turns and then he, of course, it kind of goes away and he's normal, and then of course he ends up with an arc reactor and it
yeah,
makes him yellow, which was really cool. So they're all in these little pods, and then of course the sixth member is the tree. That's a little nod if you've seen the movie.
yeah,
um but he does eventually let him out. They go to Happy Hogan's place where they inevitably find the technology to start to fix them. And
yeah.
of course, we have the big battle where Norman is still not okay in the head. He's got the split personality going.
Oh yeah,
Again, beautifully done
yeah,
by Willem Dafoe.
yeah.
And
No, even before that scene where like he figures out like when Peter gets his spider tinkle going on, right? And
yeah,
that scene where everything blurs, right? And like he's just going through the room and people are and like this is when Alfred Molina's character Doc Ock is fixed. The inhibitor is back. He's his own senses now, which is
yeah,
fucking awesome. That scene right there, we like, oh, and all the voices are gone was a beautiful fucking scene. But like the inhibitor, like when Peter gets that like clarity moment of like everything just goes silent and he hears something, he just sees everybody. That fucking scene, dude, of like where he sticks Green Goblin's hands to the window, and William Dafoe being William Dafoe. Good God, man, like it's so good. He went from like that person you just like, damn man, I want to take care of this guy because he's obviously not himself anymore. He has mental
Yeah.
illness. He's hurting and he doesn't want to be this way. And then you see that other side of him just flip instantly. Like, yeah, it was him. Like, oh dude, he's so good to go from a tragic character to the villain like at a drop of a hat. It's so amazing. That whole scene, the whole freaking fight scene afterwards. That fight scene, a lot of I gotta say, a lot of the scenes in the movie pulled from the Spider-Man game from 2018.
Yes, a lot.
A lot of it, which is
and I
fine
know-
because it's Sony property. So
Yeah,
whatever.
and I know a lot of people were bummed that what's the game, the developer of the game called?
Insomniac.
They refer to him as the Insomniac Spider-Man. A lot of people bummed that the Insomniac Spider-Man didn't come in, but I think they, in the long run, I think they did. I think they did No Way Home great. I think that they kept it to the three main Spider-Man: Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Andrew. I'm sorry, Tobey Maguire. Would I have liked to have seen the Into the Spider-Verse Miles or Miles from the MCU make his debut? Yes, but I think that train is coming.
Yeah.
The Insomniac Spider-Man would have been a really deep cut and a funny nod. That would have been hilarious. I would love to have seen that suit in the movie.
Yeah.
I would love to see that suit live action. And I hope that with the multiverse being open and them talking about doing not only Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4, I hope that they do other Spider-Verse crossovers.
No, we'll get to my points at the end. I'm just saying Spider-Verse, just like Spider-Verse, the comic book series that came out in 2006.
Yeah, right around there.
That time where like it had, dude, like this story, like it was during Superior Spider-Man era, where if that's the reason why I have Into the Spider-Verse. That's the reason why I have multiverse bullshit. Like Spider-Verse was one of the biggest reasons why a lot of this is really thrown in the open. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely cross that bridge, especially as we get closer. Now that the multiverse has opened up, and as we get closer to Doctor Strange 2, we'll talk about the different options that we have in the multiverse and what we could possibly be leading to. And there is, by the way, just to throw it out there, as we get to the big scene, there is already a ramped up talk that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and other members of this movie could return for a massive Avengers-like crossover event called
Spider-Verse.
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars.
They are talking about doing not only, I mean, they want to do Spider-Verse. Absolutely. I think that's inevitable. And I think we will get the Insomniac Spider. I think we will get the Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales and some of those Spider-Men
into Spider
live action.
We'll get everybody. It's just, it's like it's gonna blow. Like this movie blew the lid off of everything too.
They're
like
already talking about doing a Spider-Gwen with Emma Stone.
Wait, the crazy thing too is like, it's another segue. Like Spider-Gwen came out during the Spider-Verse event, right?
Yeah.
Where we fucking see. Well, my whole plan was that to have Andrew Garfield, right, who lost his Spider-Gwen or who lost his Gwen, talk to this Spider-Gwen, right? And say like, because like Spider-Gwen in the comic books lost her Peter Parker. That Peter Parker turned into the Lizard, couldn't save him. He passed away, and then we all know the death of Gwen Stacy.
Yeah,
those two are like perfect for it. Granted, we don't know if Emma Stone is gonna come back. That'd be cool if she did. But then granted, she's a little bit older too, and I think she just had a kid, right?
Yeah, and it'd be really tough for Emma Stone because the Gwen Stacy that plays Spider-Gwen, aka Ghost Spider, is a college age because she's in a band and she's early. Not to say that Emma Stone looks old, but she doesn't look 22.
Yeah, it's also the thing too, like, who voices the animated Spider-Gwen? Haley Steinfeld. But you can't have Haley. Well, unless she wants to do it. Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen in a Sony verse
You
Spider-Man,
could do it.
and then like, it'd be funny to see Kate Bishop and Spider-Gwen in the same scene together with Haley Steinfeld playing both of them. But then
Oh,
we'll get to that.
by
Yeah,
the way, real quick, I'll save it to the end.
yeah.
So a lot of stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff is going on. When there's the big fight
Good God,
at
that
the
fucking fight is so good.
at Happy Hogan's apartment, another
Yeah.
great fight scene. We see Aunt May grab the serum that would inevitably try to help save um,
Green Goblin.
Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
In trying to save Peter and get the serum into Norman, we see a moment. We get to see our Ben Parker moment and our Uncle Ben moment. I don't know if Ben.
Yep.
I don't know if Uncle Ben is actually Ben Parker or what.
Should be
Because Ben Parker is technically Spider-Man's son, isn't it?
No, Ben Parker. It depends on the universe. Or
Okay.
like it is Ben Parker, but like Ben.
We get our Uncle Ben moment in the Homecoming universe, and Goblin throws a pumpkin bomb. It explodes. Peter can't get to it in time, and its residual effects.
Before that, she gets hit. She gets hit with the glider.
Oh, that's right. She did get nicked. That's right.
Yeah, she get nicked. She got hit like full on hit.
That's right. And then of course the pumpkin bomb goes off, and I think that kind of did it in. And for a second there, we see Peter carrying Aunt May out of the building. And you see her start to weaken, and she falls, and they have the moment.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it was at this moment or just prior to it. Not only do we get another Uncle Ben moment, but we get the actual full quote.
Yeah.
We get the with great power comes great responsibility. But we get the full quote. And it was a chilling moment in the theater. And of course, go fast forward now, May dies. Spoiler alert. Peter's in the wind. And by the way, another great moment by J.K. Simmons and J. Jonah Jameson's character with kind of almost being human for a second and saying that, there was life lost tonight, and just had a great moment. So then we find ourselves in Ned's house.
Yeah.
I didn't know where they were going with this. And then all of a sudden Ned like flicks his hand and he opens up a portal for a second. Whoa. Because remember, Ned steals
the
Doctor Strange's sling ring.
Yeah.
And so he does tries to do the Doctor Strange thing. Yeah. And he goes, I wish I could see Peter Parker and like this. And MJ's like, do it again. So he's like, okay. And he opens up a portal, and there's this guy at the end of the hallway at this alleyway. Now, mind you, in the story, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is MIA. Where is he? So it could legitimately, this is how they're all going to get back together, how Ned, MJ, and Peter are going to get back together. He opens it up, and he goes, come on, Peter, come on. So he starts running towards the portal. Okay, Peter, Tom Holland has seen a portal opened up by Doctor Strange. So he just runs to it like no big deal. Guy jumps through. As soon as he jumped through that portal, I go, that is not Tom Holland's spider suit. It's got the long spider legs. That, my friends, is an ASM costume. And sure enough, grabs the mask off, and there it is, the worst kept secret in the world, the man who denied it for months, Andrew freaking Garfield as Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Really funny scene. Now, go with me on this sidebar. Is Ned Filipino?
Yeah.
Okay.
The grandmother spoke Tagalog. So
okay. So that brings me to, I know that your sister has let it be known that it's probably one of her favorite scenes with the grandmother, and she was great in it and everything. But I didn't know what the nationality was. I didn't know if it, so I wanted confirmation. I appreciate that. It was a lovely scene. And of course, I like how the grandma makes Peter go and
Yeah.
get the cobwebs of all thing out of the corner.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Okay, let's try it again. Show me Peter Parker."
Yeah.
And this guy steps off a ledge and comes through the portal, and it's not Tom Holland. It is Tobey Maguire. And he goes, "Oh, great, it's some old guy." It's like, hey, wait a minute. Freaking
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire is like the same age as me.
Yeah.
But
It was funny to see that scene, man. It was great to see that scene. Like, granted, those are the scenes I was spoiled in. I knew they were coming, and so like,
yeah.
I looking at it from perspective, like, all right, cool, they're coming now. Like, I felt like out of the whole things in the movie, man, those two were rushed, and I just, I'm pretty sure if I came into it fresh, right, not expecting anything, I would be hyped as hell for it, right, and
Yeah.
I would not look past it, right. I would not look past my fanboyism at that point. But like looking at it now in this perspective, like, dang, man, they didn't give him like any leeway. They didn't give him like any type of like slowly pausing in. You just like Ned opens up, you didn't give him no slow pause. So like when they did with with Doc Ock, where he had a whole scene come through and
Yeah.
talking scenes, and Green Goblin was a little mysterious in that sense, and he had talking scenes as well. He had that internal conflict. Granted, it was a lot more about the villains than it was the heroes in this movie, which was great to see.
Which in the long run, I was kind of okay with, because if you really look back at the Spider-Man franchise, no disrespect to Toby, Tom, or Andrew,
Mm.
the villains really did
Yeah.
carry those movies, good,
Yeah.
bad, or ugly.
Yeah, it was very much, it was supposed to be about your rogues gallery. It's just for me, the scenes where them just walking through a portal, right? Quite literally a minute after the other. It was like very like all right, cool. And then they go straight into it, which is cool. I mean, understandably, you want to get down to your 2 hour 30-minute marker and then
Yeah.
have some scenes with them together, right? I understand that point. And this is why I think too, I know this is supposed to be for after our initial lost movie. This is why I think too there's gonna be a longer version of this film. Where like
Because
where
apparently
I
there's a
feel
lot of cameos that got cut.
yeah, like if for those who were who caught this moment, were like when Toby walked back in, right, and says, "Oh, I know you two." Like, how do you know those two? This should be the first time you saw them. But Toby says, "No, I know you two, but I don't know your friend." When they talk about Andrew, so I'm
Yeah.
being like, I'm immediately thinking like, "Oh shit, okay, cool. They're gonna add probably a lot more scenes in the in the director's cuts or whatever it's gonna be. Hopefully add those scenes, because you gotta add the only Marvel movie in this history that and the only MCU film that has gone through at least 3 hours is Endgame, which
Yeah.
that was supposed to be the swan song for all those awesome actors and actresses, right? Granted, and I was hoping it would be a little bit longer to have those scenes fleshed out with those two, but then like just for me, like, oh man, like just so flippantly for me. They came in, they came out, and that was it. Like, cool, but then they move forward, which was great. They you see that awesome scene where the two Spider-Men were on that peak of the building after they find Tom Spider-Man, and which I gotta say beforehand too, after before this whole scene with them find the other Spider-Man, where it was just Tom out there in the rain. Great fucking visual shot. I have to say, great visual shot of that. But yeah, going a little bit fast forward to that, and just seeing all those three interact was good. It was like really freaking great. I
All of
gotta say, it was really very very grounded into the quote unquote like the spirit of today of like of being emotionally available type of thing, like having the mentorship type of role, right? Like really play out, and like quite literally saying, "I do, like I know exactly what you're going through. I know exactly what you're going through." So like it was fun.
the main four scenes of the three of them together.
Yeah.
The first one being on top of the school, because they go, where do you go to think, Andrew goes top of the Chrysler building,
Yeah.
and Toby goes Empire State. He goes, solid. He goes, what about your guy? And he's on top of the school where we saw Ned, Peter, and MJ earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
And so they go there, and Peter's down. Obviously May has passed away, and he doesn't want to be with anybody. He goes, "We've got people with you," and they kind of thwip their way down and have a great emotional scene.
Yeah.
Um, and they talk about um, I don't know why it bugged me, but it did was um, they talk about, hey, sorry about your aunt. No mention of Uncle Ben in the Homecoming universe, the MCU.
Mm.
Supposedly, we're going to get a backstory on that in the
Mm.
animated series on Disney Plus called Spider-Man Freshman Year.
Mm.
Which, by the way, we did find out too that this movie takes place during the senior year
Yeah.
of MJ, Ned, and Peter. So there's the moment, and they talk about Tom Holland's Spider-Man losing his Aunt May, and then Toby goes, for me it was losing Uncle Ben, and for Andrew he goes, it was losing my girlfriend Gwen. And I was like, but you lost your Uncle Ben too. Like, how do you skip over to your girlfriend, or straight to your girlfriend, skip over your uncle? It's like, I don't know why it bugged me. And I know why John Watts and the writers did it, because they didn't want to
Mm.
have two Uncle Bens as the emotional tug to their movie. I know it foreshadowed obviously the redemption that we saw later in the movie, but
Yeah.
I like the interaction. And of course, um,
Mm.
when Tom Holland says the quote, the with great power comes great responsibility, and just seeing
Yeah.
the reaction with the other two characters,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Andrew and Toby
It was
respond.
good. It was clear. It was good clarification. And when Andrew said like, "Oh, Uncle Ben said it," right? When he said that part, I do believe the more emotional impact for him. That's why it was Gwen's death more than Uncle Ben's death, because because Gwen's death was he was
He
kind
literally
of
killed her.
that sure, but like he did literally kill her, or what had his hand in it, but like he was also could possibly have stopped it. While in the same regard, that was the same thing with Toby's Spider-Man, right? Where he had an actual like autonomy in the event of someone's death that he really truly cared about, right? In the regards of like and I forget how Andrew lost his Uncle Ben. Honestly, I think it would have been the same
Andrew's
way.
Uncle Ben died in Amazing Spider-Man #1, where
One,
Andrew
yeah.
was out trying to find. Um, no, Andrew was out somewhere, and he was inside of a convenience store, and he didn't have enough money for chocolate milk, and the guy behind him stole it, threw it to him, and when the guy ran out of the store,
Mm.
the uh, he also stole some other stuff, and the clerk was like, "Hey, he robbed me," and Uncle Ben was walking down the street. They run into
That's
each
right.
other. Guy drops a gun. Guy picks up the gun, shoots him in the gut.
Yeah,
Uncle Ben dies.
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, too, I do want to get this out there. In both, I think they said it once in the Amazing Spider-Man universe. The with great power comes great responsibility. Obviously, it was a massive part of Spider-Man 1
They
in
never
the
said it.
Sam Raimi movies, but
Mm.
straight from
Yeah.
Amazing Fantasy number 12, is that first appearance of Spider-Man?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
15.
15
Yeah.
is the actual quote, and it is um, at the end of at the end of one of the yellow bubbles. It says, at last that is at last that in this world, with great power there must also come great responsibility." So the full quote is, "With great power there must also come great responsibility,"
Mm.
and Marissa Tomei's Aunt May says it that way, which was so MCU,
Yeah.
so Marvel Studios to get that exact quote. But again, I like how it played out with the three interactions. Real quick, the other interactions, there was a lot of going on. Obviously, the villains are kind of setting themselves up. We get
Mm.
we inevitably get to the Statue of Liberty that was hinted at in Hawkeye, I think like episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Um, but we do get to see the meme moment. It wasn't quite as obvious as I think some people wanted to, but we do get to see a cool interaction in the science lab where we get to see the brains of the
Yeah.
Peters.
Mm.
So we got to see the emotional side, the human beings that is Spider-Man / Peter Parker on the rooftop. Then we get to
Yeah.
see the brains that are Peter Parker, and then My third favorite interaction was on the actual Statue of Liberty, where they come together to work as a team.
Yeah.
And this is a character who, for most of his run in Marvel Comics, he's a solo act. He's a street level character. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He doesn't work well with the team, or he doesn't work with the team because he's a
Yeah.
kid. I know that inevitably, I think he was a defender. He was an Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's been on some other teams and whatnot, but
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man's not really a team guy. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But when they came together on the Statue of Liberty, and of course when Tom goes, "Yeah, I'm kind of an Avenger," and he's like, "That Andrew or Toby's like, that's so cool. What's an Avenger?" I thought it was great. But
Yeah.
those three moments of the three of them working together were my some of my favorite, because you got to see the emotional side of Peter Parker, the
Mm-hmm.
brains of Peter Parker, and then you got to see Peter and his quippiness, and you got to see the Spider-Men work together. So,
Yeah.
um,
It yeah. For me, it's always gonna be the better scenes. The my favorite scenes with the Spider-Man. It's always gonna be those like small slice of life moments where like they're talking about like how when they were being scientists, they talk about like what's you refill my web cartridge is always a pain, right? And Toby goes, "What's a web cartridge? Like you don't just like he just does it naturally," and how that plays into the scene of them just talking, right? Just talking, and it's I have to say it feels a lot like it feels a little bit of like it being an Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie as well because of how much Andrew has a lot of lines.
yeah.
Like they put Andrew in like he's in the thick of it. He's like he talked about like him being dark, right? He goes dark, how he stopped pulling his punches, how he very much, like was just angry and bitter towards towards everything after losing Gwen. And how like Peter very much filled the whole role. Like I love that line where like where Andrew says to Toby, like hey, do you have your suit, or are you gonna look like a youth pastor the whole time? Right? And so like he has the thing, right? And they're just talking about like it fits, dude. Like Toby Spider-Man at this point feels very much like the older brother, the oldest brother, right? Like it's three siblings, the oldest brother, the middle brother, and the youngest brother, right?
Yeah.
It very much feels like it feels like that type of thing, especially when Andrew says like I always wanted brothers. Like I love this. I always wanted people, and like how they talked about it, just small stuff like what are your favorite, what are your toughest enemies, and like, oh, you fought most of them, and like, oh, I fought an alien, a purple alien from outer space and here. And then Andrew's like, oh man, I just fought a dude in a rhino suit. In a mechanical rhino suit. And like he just goes, I'm lame, and freaking Toby's like, no, you're not lame, you're amazing.
You're amazing. Everyone loves the line. At first I thought it was kind of cheesy, then I liked it, and then of course they just kept it going. I'm like, okay, just
You're amazing. Like
amazing.
say it. I love those reinforcements. The reinforcements of like are like this is the thing we needed. Therapy session for all our Spider guys. Period. And
Yeah.
just going on to the scenes of like them finally interacting and how they fight with each other, and like how like use your spider tingle and trust coordination, all that stuff. Just do it. That scene of them free falling, that scene of them going off the scaffolding and free falling and going into their spider swings was amazing. I never thought I would ever fucking see that, dude. It was so great to see that.
It was great.
It was fun.
I will say that going back, we talked about you look like you're going to change into your suit. You look like a youth pastor. And that Toby was kind of meant to be the older brother kind of thing. And like you had the moment where the cracked back where Andrew was, hey, you want me to take care of that? That was a great callback to the movies. Of course, when Toby fell on the car, I think it was either in Spider-Man 2 or 3, and he goes, oh, my back. It's kind of a callback because it was kind of how Jake Johnson's Peter B. Parker was portrayed in Into the Spider-Verse, where which was kind of an amalgamation of Andrew Garfield's and Toby's Spider-Man in this movie. Was he loses Mary Jane, but he loses Mary Jane to a divorce, meaning the Jake Johnson animated Peter B. Parker. And he goes mopey and puts on weight and stuff like that, and he becomes the kind of the elder statesman Peter Parker in the Into the Spider-Verse. And so he was kind of like, he gets mopey and he loses stuff like Andrews did, but doesn't go violent. He gets mopey, and then becomes Tobey Maguire's kind of big brother Spider-Man. So again, another character I would have liked. That would have been kind of funny, though. Jake Johnson doesn't exactly scream blockbuster movie, but it would have been kind of funny to have like a somehow, some way, a cameo of Jake Johnson's Peter B. Parker, or even, like I said, I don't know. I kind of now want to see Chris Pine play Spider-Man. I don't know why, but yeah, I love the swing out scene. Of course, we get to the end of the movie, and the whole point of the movie was to give the villains their redemption. Obviously, it's no secret that even they say it in the trailer that all of these villains are ghosts, meaning that they died dealing with
their Spider-Man,
their Spider-Man, and never got to live out. They were all trapped somehow. Flint Marko was trapped being Sandman. Lizard was trapped being Lizard, or Kirk Connors was trapped being Lizard because of the serum, and he couldn't go back to being normal. Norman Osborn went cuckoo when he had the serum and became Goblin. Otto Octavius had the inhibitor and became Dr. Ock, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So they get their redemption at the end, but Peter knows to truly give the redemption to not only the villains but to the Spider-Man is to go through with the initial spell that he wanted to cast, but with no caveat, with no addendums, with no add-ons. Everyone across every universe will never know that Peter Parker will never know who Peter Parker is, and that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Including Doctor Strange, including all the members of the Avengers. And I was thinking like, oh, well, no, they'll like, no. I mean, he has total autonomy in this. Oh, by the way, really cool scene with the multiverse starting to rip open and all the different villains that were coming through. Comic accurate Scorpion, comic accurate Rhino,
Black
Cat, Kraven the Manhunter, and supposedly there was a couple other ones, but like I said, all very comic accurate versions of those villains. So that part of the multiverse gets closed. Doctor Strange. I got a freaking fly in my face.
But yeah, it was good to see that. Like, it was, and again, we didn't talk about Doctor Strange. The movie was hopefully those who have talked to us now or listeners now would probably have watched the movie, and so like we know that the fact that Doctor Strange was one of the biggest points of contention too that people didn't like was that Spider-Man beat Doctor Strange in his mirror world, mirror dimension, right? That was a point of contention when it was all about math. Granted, it was just bad writing to move the story forward because you have 2 hours and 33 minutes of probably expecting 3 Spider-Man to show up.
But I liked how he beat Doctor Strange. It wasn't like he beat him with magic. He beat him with
math
logic.
And science. Well, yeah, I mean, it shows that that this Peter is smart, understandably so. But at the same time, like people are saying to Dan, like this what should be said about Doctor Strange in here in No Way Home was that this was the same. This is the same man who basically underestimated Peter. Period. He always treated him with kid gloves, right? He sees him as a kid because there was a certain point in the film where like you don't call me sir. You don't call me sir. We've saved the universe. We're good. And then he becomes realization, I keep on forgetting you're a freaking kid. And I'm gonna treat you like a kid. And so like it's very much Strange underestimating him. You always see him as like a semi-father figure in the film where he's the like, angry, like, dude, what the hell did you do this time? I'm cleaning up your messed up thing. So that was the push that he was getting, and he will get his full-on arc during Multiverse of Madness, which I'm fucking looking forward to see that one too.
Oh my god, that trailer.
That was great. But going on to the reason why we're not talking about him because like hopefully people know what happened with Strange. He was nerfed, yes, but at the same time he was attacking Peter with kid gloves.
But here's the thing. You
Hmm.
just brought up a great point, and we
Hmm.
completely glossed over it. And I apologize for not giving Doctor Strange his just dues in the movie because he was good, but he wasn't as prevalent in this movie as Tony was in the other Spider-Man movies,
Yeah.
or at least in Homecoming. But you just brought up a great point. He is nerfed because he's not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore.
Yeah. We keep on forgetting he's
Wong
on.
is.
Yeah.
Of course, we find out that Doctor Strange obviously was blipped
Yeah.
at the events of Infinity War, and because the Sorcerer Supreme, once he no longer is around to guard the Sanctum Sanctorum, Wong became the guardian of the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York and
Hmm.
became Sorcerer Supreme. And we do know that this will play out into at least into parts of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
Yeah.
Madness, that Wong will still be the mainline Marvel Cinematic Universe's Sorcerer Supreme. So he was technically nerfed. You're absolutely right. I
I
do
mean,
see your contention with being
yeah.
beat in the Mirror of Dimension.
It's not more so like the nerf thing where when people say nerf, they think like of dramatic shift in like power scaling. Like he wasn't nerfed in the sense of power, he was just nerfed in the sense of titles. What
Yeah,
what I have to really hammer down the point is that every time he saw Peter, he saw him as a kid, which he's supposed to be.
which he's done since day one.
You're a kid, right? Granted, like in the beginning of the movie, like don't call me sir. Come on, Peter. Like we should be friends by now. We save the universe, right? And then it's when Peter constantly screws up during the events of No Way Home, or no way when No Way Home during this freaking movie, is that he treats him as a kid. You're a kid. Call me sir. No, I'm treating you with kid gloves. I'm not taking you seriously during my own dimension, right?
Yeah,
He doesn't do half the thing, not even that. He doesn't do a third things he did against Thanos to Peter,
yeah.
and so that ultimately is his undoing in the movie. He saw him as a kid. He treated him like a kid, and he got whooped, and he got underestimated. He underestimated Peter. So
And maybe
that was
that's
reason for that.
why they did that. Maybe they wanted Steven to treat him like a kid
Yeah, that
so
was
that Peter could underestimate him. And mind you, Stephen Strange has treated Peter Parker, has treated Spider-Man as a kid since day one. The first
yeah,
time the two of them interacted in Infinity War, his
yeah,
comment was, "What is he, your ward?" Meaning,
yeah,
like a
yeah. Which is
he's a
which I'm yeah.
he's
That's
an
basically
assistant.
yeah. That's which is basically what I'm saying. Like he didn't treat Peter as a actual like full on threat that needed his full scope of powers that we've seen him do. And so like that's the only reason I'm on that hopping on that is that people are saying like, damn man, they really freaking nerfed Strange. Strange is really weak when if he loses to Spider-Man. This guy that's like supposedly Sorcerer
Sorcerer
Supreme
Supreme.
that can meld in universes, loses to this kid. I'm like, no, there's context to this. Like it's like the same thing of like how Spider-Man loses to somebody with electricity. It's
Yeah.
context. It's context. So that was one thing. But yeah, back to the scene when having Strange pull all the powers and seeing how Peter is willing to sacrifice like everything, his relationships, his loved ones, his memories with loved ones, and how he just wants to be known to people or seen as or kind of seen as the new Stark, basically in a certain
Yeah.
essence, right? Like that's gone. He's now core Spider-Man that we all have known forever. He is more in line with Marvel Comics Spider-Man than MCU Spider-Man,
Yeah.
which is good to see. Which is really good to see. We see that that scene where Zendaya or when MJ and Ned are at her
The donut shop.
donut shop, right? And that interaction, it was great. I freaking love that scene. I really believed in the relationship with MJ and Peter. I really believed in that relationship. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
movie, I'm like, oh cool, this is an actual genuine relationship. And so that was cool to see. They did one more day. They did the one more day storyline where like inevitably you make your last wishes to like, in order to save everybody, the divorce happens,
Yeah.
right? The marriage fails, you're done. No one remembers you, all that stuff. So that was cool to see. But yeah, it was fun. It was very very fun. It was a Spider-Man moment. I'll say that it was a very Spider-Man filled moment. That end scene. Oh,
So
that
he
end wish.
Yeah, so he leaves the diner or the
Hmm.
donut shop,
Hmm.
content with the world not knowing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man or who even Peter Parker is.
Yeah.
Um, and we do know that both Ned and MJ get into MIT, and Peter does not. So Peter is content with his homemade suit at being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And he goes and gets his crappy apartment, and
he has his GED books. So
he has, because remember, he never graduated high school at this point. And he just and now the homemade crappy Spider-Man suit from Civil War and Homecoming doesn't last very long. We do see at the end of the movie, we get to see a new, very, very comic accurate costume with the shiny blue make its debut, and it's all homemade by Peter. And I will say, at any point when he's in his crappy apartment, I cannot remember the character's name, but at any point when he goes into his crappy apartment, were you waiting for rent?
Oh no.
I was kind of hoping that we'd get a variant of his next door neighbor from the Raimiverse.
Yeah.
But he goes back. He's thripping through New York, and that is how the movie ends.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Mid-credit scene. We're in a bar in Mexico, and I spent most of the scene trying to figure out who the bartender was. Of course, it's Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso. But we see I can't, just completely drew a blank on his name.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy's
Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock in a bar trying to explain how in the hell he went from his universe to this universe, and tries to explain everything while the guy's just cleaning a glass. And then we see what's up.
Yeah, the guy he's trying to understand what are superheroes. Are multiple superheroes? Like what is the purple guy that came from space? He's doing that scene. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it's a great scene, and I know that you have a love-hate relationship with the cinematic Venom that we've seen the last couple of years. It's not great. It's not perfect. It's entertaining. I do like Tom Hardy. I do like Tom Hardy's version of just Venom. Eddie Brock, I wish they would have gone a different way, but whatever. So we get to see a little bit of a interaction between the bartender, Venom, and Eddie Brock before he's not blipped, but he's put right back in his universe. So all he gets is a mid-credit scene in this movie. We don't get to see Venom and Spider-Man interact. That is it. But then the camera pans down, and there is just a drop of symbiote on the bar. So the symbiote now exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Before we go any further, JR, in Marvel Comics, multiple people have embraced the symbiote. Everyone from Peter Parker himself to Flash Thompson to Eddie Brock.
I mean,
what's that?
I mean, after I forget which annual it was. I think 29.9 Venom, right? There's a certain annual that happened recently where every living being in existence took a Venom symbiote suit. So it's weird, this whole organism versus machine type of thing that happens in that book. But yeah, continue.
Even at one point in comic books, Carol Danvers, that's right, Captain Marvel, took on the symbiote, albeit briefly. How freaking cool would it be to see? Oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. I got COVID brain still. Brie Larson's. To have Brie Larson's
God, no.
Carol Danvers be Venom for just a moment.
We don't need to overpower her as much as she already is right now.
No. What do you think they're going to do with the symbiote in the MCU? Fuck, man, are we going to get to see? Was it Crawl or Call or
Null? You talking about Null? Maybe. I mean, maybe. Hopefully, it'll make some precedence to some other stuff outside of just Tom. Outside of Tom Spider-Man, right? Maybe it'll just be linked to something else. Maybe it'll be Secret War. Maybe something else. Be like, it's in Mexico, right? The Venom the Venom symbiote dot is in Mexico, and from what's looking like, it's having a hard freaking time to get anywhere. So
yeah.
Here's hoping that there's something from that. Maybe they'll probably will go with the initial like black suit Spider-Man somewhere down the line. It's gonna happen, but like I do feel like maybe there's gonna be something before that because like it's got a long way to go
It's
from
got to build up to it.
yeah, just not just from like just lengthwise, but just overall like what's gonna happen from that point. So there's a lot of loose threads that are constantly being thrown out there, which I'm happy for. But yeah, man.
Real quick, by the way, comments below. Hit us up on Twitter at PS Comics. I love the letter U, and hit hashtag PS Comics. I love you. Let us know what Marvel Cinematic Universe character would you like to see don the Venom symbiote. I would love. I like JR's graphic novel. I think just have everybody do it. That'd be hilarious. So we have the symbiote is now in the mainline Marvel Cinematic Universe. What's going to happen? We don't know. It'll be interesting. There's even talk that that universe's Flash Thompson could end up being the symbiote, which would be very interesting. That little brat being the symbiote, being Venom.
Yeah.
All I know is I want Tom Hardy to continue doing the voice of Venom. I know a lot of it has to do with its host, and that it's only appropriate that Tom Hardy does the voice of Venom when it's Tom Hardy as Venom. I know that they tweaked it a little bit when Michelle Williams in the first Venom movie was Venom, which by the way I thought was kind of cool because she looked like the female Venom from the comic books. But yeah, so that's the big kind of cliffhanger is we see that at the end in the mid credit scene, and then if you waited to the very end of the credits, you're hoping for one more teaser. Well, you got one, a massive surprise. We get our first look. Now, of course, it has since been dropped by Marvel on YouTube and Facebook and stuff over the holidays. But we get to see all the way back in the 1st of December, the very first look at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And that looks like a Sam Raimi freaking masterpiece from the second the trailer starts. It is a horror flick set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It will bring, we do know, America Chavez, which looks great. It looks like her star power is going to come in. And of course, for those who don't know, her star power allows her to create these star portals to instantly jump between multiverses.
Or through the heads of her opponents, which she has done.
Oh, I'll take your word for it. But she looks great. The costume looks great. Very comic accurate. Doctor Strange looks great. We see Elizabeth Olsen is back as Wanda. We finally see a cinematic reference to a Disney Plus show when Strange says, "I'm not here to talk to you about Westview." We do know that that's going to be coming more into play with Wanda being able to handle the Darkhold, and we do see a snippet of her as the Scarlet Witch doing kind of a seance. But much to our surprise and our happy surprise, we do see Baron Mordo make his return in this movie. But the big thing is it the Baron Mordo from the mainline Marvel Cinematic Universe? Is it a variant? Is it from a multiverse? We don't know. He does look different. He could have just aged over the last couple of years, but there is rumors going around that the Baron Mordo that we saw in the trailer is not from our universe. The reason being is because he has an ominous saying: "You are not the most power."
You're not the most dangerous.
You are not
the most dangerous. No. The most dangerous threat to the universe has always been you.
Has always been you, and that is when we see not only do we get our first mention of a Disney Plus show with Stephen Strange referencing Westview from WandaVision, but we get our second reference to a Disney Plus show when Sorcerer Superior makes his debut in this trailer. You're probably asking, who is Sorcerer Superior? It is the Doctor Strange from What If, the one that is trapped in his own mirror dimension, keeping his universe from collapsing on top of him and his and Doctor whatever, his girlfriend. That was fantastic. Oh my gosh, that was
good. It was fun to see. Again, I cannot wait to see Benedict Cumberbatch just be in that movie and just fucking rock it out of the park, man. His acting has gotten better over the years. His his American accent. Granted, I have no clue which variant of that accent is from, but his American accent is getting better. So his jokes are a lot more comedically timed now, and so it should be coming off like he should be looking like Strange. A little bit back of a back segue. I wouldn't mind seeing for Venom if they do have a Flash Thompson come back to become Agent Venom. Joe Manganiello come
Oh heck
back
yeah, have him
and be Agent Venom. I wouldn't mind that. If a Flash Thompson does come back, I wouldn't mind him being
cross universes from the Toby universe, well, yeah, we have our Flash Thompson, obviously, which is the younger kid, but Joe Magdaleno, whatever,
Manganiello.
Manganiello, cross universes or just have
that'd
be
you
awesome. Can't have it be a new character. I think having him jump universes would be great. Again, multiverse. Real quick, I do want to throw this out here because I know we won't be able to talk about Doctor Strange for at least another 5 months because it's not due out until May 6th. Rumors did come out this past week. Speaking of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we're in, rumors have it is loaded with cameos. There was a cameo that was dropped. Marvel Studios did reach out to Ben Affleck to reprise his role as Matt Murdock and Daredevil. And this came, of course, off the heels of Ben Affleck stating that Flash will be his last time as Batman and Bruce Wayne. And he has also come out and said that it was Matt Damon who actually talked him out of continuing to be the role because Justice League, the original Justice League, kind of sucked the life out of him. So he says that the best version of Batman is in the Flash, which I cannot wait to see. It's gonna be great.
I mean, Justice League itself just drove him back to drinking. So it's good that he's stopped it.
Which, by the way, the Snyder cut was great. The original, the theatrical cut was not good. But yeah, he almost got him. But he says, "I'm done. I'm done with quote IP movies, with comic book movies. I'm gonna go do this." And he talked about Last Duel that he got to do with Matt Damon and others. And said that was a lot of fun. He got to work with his friends. The movie was commercially and critically panned, but it has lived a new life on streaming and has actually been very popular on streaming platforms. So
it's good.
But yeah, we're this close to getting our second Matt Murdock in the Marvel in a Marvel Studios movie. All in all, JR,
I will say this. I think we said this is like in top 5 movies for me all the time. But I will say this. It's kind of not really ended up. But I want to talk about Multiverse, the Spider-Verse. But go ahead and talk about your where you place this film.
This is firmly planted inside my top 5. It is number 5. For context, my top 5 are Spider-Man No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Avengers Endgame at 3, Avengers Infinity War at 2, and still locked in at number 1 and has not moved since its premiere is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. It is gonna be a tough one. I was close to moving in Endgame to the 1 seed when I saw it. But No Way Home had its issues. It was a little long. They could have trimmed some of the fat. Guardians is a great movie. Infinity War is a fantastic movie. Endgame is a mind blow. But Winter Soldier, I just rewatched it a couple of weeks ago, and it's still fantastic. Russo's probably their best work, and just a great movie. But no, definitely No Way Home is in my top 5. I've only seen it once. JR, you've seen it twice?
I have.
Okay, so maybe I'll see it a second time, and maybe I will see something different. But it's number 5 for me.
It's in my top 5. I don't know about top 3, but I think I have it. I think I have it like below one of the Infinity tandems. So it should be like the Infinity tandems are 1, 2. I think that might be 3 or 4, and then Civil War is up there for me. Civil War is definitely up there for me. I think that rounds out my 5 for Civil War because that for me just blew off everything. But going back to the multiverse for me, dude, this is what I freaking need from Sony. This whole movie was basically Sony's plan from like 8 years ago, or I don't know how many years ago since the last Spider-Man movie. They were trying to do a Sinister Six movie.
Yep.
Couple that in with the X-Men universe at the time, which was the Days of Future Past. franchise, or the new something, whatever,
the new class,
the first class, no, first class, yeah,
first class,
the first class team, right? They're supposed to do a Sinister Six movie with Spider-Man, all that stuff, right?
which was
But
teased at
then,
the end of ASM too.
yeah, you have that scene with Jennifer Lawrence blowing up a tent, right, getting people out, which was great to see. But they had all that stuff was in this movie. Basically, you have majority of the villains, you have the redemption arc for everybody, you have this, basically Marvel going, all right, we'll fix everything, don't worry about it,
Now,
type of
for
thing.
those who don't know, real quick to kind of put this full circle. So ASM 1 comes out.
Yeah, come on. Hurry up! I'm about to lose my point, but you gotta go.
No, go ahead. ASM 1 comes out in 2012, same time as Avengers come out. There was talk that putting Avengers Tower in ASM number 1, right next to Oscorp Tower, and making Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man the MCU Spider-Man. That we're that close, so it was kind of cool to see it kind of come full circle. Your point,
sorry. It's all gonna pan out to gonna be the Spider-Verse event that everybody's been fucking hinting. That Sony's been hinting at for a long freaking time, ever since Into the Spider-Verse with the animated movie, and how that reinvigorated this idea of like possibly having more Spider people within the scene. For those who have read Spider-Verse, right? Back in 2000, like early 2000s, where Superior Spider-Man took over the body of, where Doc Ock took over the body of Peter Parker. I know, comics, it happens.
Oh yeah,
and they find out that there was this multiverse jumping vampire vampire family that feeds on spider people. Right, that feeds on spider people, right? They're totem warriors or something like that, and in the totem of animal things during the vampirism scenes, or vampirism whatever, they go off to every universe and kill off every single spider person and feed on them to basically gain sustenance and to live forever. Like, when we get Mayday Parker, right, the Spider Girl that we all know and see, if you watch comics, her father and her mother were killed. Peter Parker and Mary Jane, that version was killed in the Spider-Verse event. Even though, funny enough, Main Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, which happens to have those exact same family, is now still a thing. Ben Reilly was killed. An older Peter was killed. I think we had like a lot of other Spider people come to be. Spider-Gwen was finally announced, or was finally showed up. We had Spider-Ham, we had Spider Noir, we had all these people come together in a scene fighting off against vampires that jump multiverses. Why does it make reference now? Guess what Sony's coming out with this year? It has a vampire that was pivotal in Spider-Verse. Mobius.
Oh yeah.
Like, they have Andrew Garfield back. They have Toby back to a certain regard. They might do, and Andrew has been said before that he will definitely come back to play Spider-Man again if the story is right. This is the only story. Not only that, but now we have Miles Morales possibly making a live action appearance now. So again, a lot of things fall into place for Sony as a studio to say, you know what? We gotta stop we gotta stop sticking our heads up our asses and just do this stuff, because a lot of the times too, what Sony's been doing is that they're referencing back to their game division, which is basically honestly just saving them at this fucking point, even though they're coming out with a fucking car for some dumb reason. Don't get me started on that. And so yeah, like, it's just everything's pointing to multiverse, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or Spider-Verse-esque type of features. So yes, we'll get a bunch of them. Like, the best thing to do, honestly, if they really want to ride this wave, is just introduce Miles Morales live action. That's all you like. Get Toby, get Andrew, maybe finally get Tom for another scene. They might do some version of Spider-Verse, right, into the theaters. Maybe it's just someone just trying to destroy the world again, or destroy the universe again, and you have all the Spider people, including Venom, around to try to help out. So again, that's just a theory that I am I'm planting my flag on and saying this. They're gonna do this. They're gonna have to do this, because from all the events that's happening right now and what Sony's been trying to do and play nice with Marvel, as well as trying to again flesh out their own universe and hopefully have them cross over with Marvel. It was going to happen. Mobius and Blade. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and everything else into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Verse event has to happen because you have this has never happened. 3 Spider-Men in one film.
Yeah.
Like 3 literal generations of Spider-Men. It's gonna have to happen. Who's gonna play Spider-Gwen? Who's gonna play Silk? Who's gonna play all these awesome mainline characters now that are gonna come in, weave their way into to not maybe full on MCU films, but definitely into Sony films. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
we do get a Silk show coming to Amazon Prime. I think it is. I don't know if it's connected directly into the Sony universe, but no, a lot of Spider-Man stuff still coming down the pipeline. We'll follow that. A lot more multiversal madness coming down the pipeline as we advance into Doctor Strange 2. We'll see how it affects maybe Wakanda Forever, how it will affect Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We don't know. I do know that the 3 shows that it will directly, the 3 platforms that the multiverse is going to directly affect is Doctor Strange 2, What If, and Loki Season 2, both those TV shows. So there's our rankings. There's our review. Went a little bit longer than expected, but it was a massive movie to try to break down. We still could have talked a lot more about some of the stuff, but I think we did justice where justice was due. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about Spider-Man No Way Home. Is this the last time we see Tom Holland play Spider-Man? Is this the last time that Tom Holland plays Spider-Man? Is this the last time we're going to see Spider-Man in general in the mainline Marvel Cinematic Universe live action version? We know that there is a animated series coming online, not voiced by Tom Holland. That's supposed to come down, I think, next year. So anyways, you can hit us up on all sorts of social media platforms, including our very own YouTube channel. You can search it out, PS Comics I Love You on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at PS Comics I Love You, PS Comics I Love, the letter U on Twitter. He is JR, also not JR Comics 42 on Instagram. I am Kevin Pillow at Voice of Reason 23 on all social media platforms. Guys, thank you so much for staying up late with us. I want to say thank you to the diehard fan that stuck with the entire episode on Twitch. What's up? And I appreciate all of the Russian bots who commented into the show. That was very appreciative. I don't know how to say anything. I don't know how to say thank you in Russian. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. There is a sometime this weekend, because now that we've ran to 10 o'clock, I'm not watching Book of Boba Fett tonight. I'll be watching Book of Boba Fett probably tomorrow or on Friday, and we will do a wrap-up show on the first 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett sometime this weekend. JR, thank you so much for staying up. I know you've had a rough go of it. I know you've had some shoulder issues or something.
Yeah. Oh no, I think I do. Like, I think I
for your pec or something. Or
no, it's not really tore. Like, I feel a tear in my working out. Cool. Well, I think I tore something my pec minor right here because I was benching, and so my dumbass benched 335, and said let's go higher. So I went to I think I benched that day 375, and like I just felt something there, and I just continued to do. Yeah, it's take care of your body. Yes. Take care of your body, and it'll take care of you. And so don't do idiotic things like I've been doing. So
more comics coming to my Instagram page at Voice of Reason 23. Also, of course, JR, he's always got new comics. Also, JR, also not JR Comics. What is it? Also not JR Comics 42. There you go. Got new books coming to his Instagram page.
Best cover of the week, Metamorphosis. This is an Ice Cream Man issue 27 cover, Metamorphosis. For those who are fans of the original Metamorphosis, the French book came out in 1915. So this is a homage cover to it. So
love cover swaps. But again, no comics coming to my Instagram page until CGC's hashtag free ASM 129 book from its clutches. I'm going full Britney. Going hashtag free Britney on this. So guys, thank you so much. Again, as we always close out, Be a decent human being. Wear your damn masks. And as always, my friends, peace.
Peace.